While it is true that Malcolm encountered several leading members of state and influential ministers who had extended offers to host him and his family in their countries, as well as providing financial security, Malcolm remained ever so committed to the plight of 20 million African Americans who were still being oppressed and marginalized in the so-called land of the free and the home of the brave. Thus he forfeited many lucrative opportunities to enrich himself and evade further threats to his security in favor of returning to the United States and continuing his work as an advocate for his people. Not long after that, Malcolm began to forge a new alliance with Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. and publicly began declaring his plans to take the American government to court. Malcolm's strategic thinking and relentless drive made him the foremost and most feared opponent of the American establishment in 1964, when he became the very first prominent American to openly attack and criticize America's violent foreign policies in Southern Asia and its criminal acts against the Vietnamese during the war in 1964. Malcolm set pace for many others to raise similar concerns and follow his example. His fearless and direct criticism of America's duplicitous and hypocritical policies highlighted many inconvenient truths for many of his fellow black Americans who were considered good enough to sacrifice themselves serving in the military, but not good enough to sit next to a white person on a bus. However, Malcolm's critique was not reserved for the American government alone. In his now more inclusive role as an advocate for international justice, Malcolm also began campaigning for the Palestinians and had even gone as far as traveling to Gaza and personally meeting with the leaders of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, exchanging ideas about the mutual plight of the African Americans and that of the Palestinians, who had also been subject to ghetto-like conditions in their own land. Malcolm's direct interaction with the leading members of Palestine's PLO in Gaza resulted in the publication of an essay in the Egyptian Gazette on September 17, 1964, which he entitled Zionist Logic. Malcolm sought to create allies in all parts of the world and advocated even for the rights of the oppressed minorities in places as far off as Mongolia. His light was shining bright across 4 continents, and he was sending tremors of fear within the American administration. Malcolm was a man who had been accepted everywhere else, but not in his own country. His plans and growing connections to leading liberation movements and organizations in Africa, the Middle East, Europe, and South America caused much concern for the United States.
I had gotten an invitation to visit Paris from the Afro-American community in Paris, which was sponsoring a rally in conjunction with the African community. When I got to Paris, the man said I couldn't come in. Some man, French man. They gave me no explanation other than to say, we have our orders. They wouldn't let me phone the American embassy, and they tried to imply that the American embassy was behind it, which I told them that I didn't know that France was a satellite of the United States. Well, this made them angry because they like to be independent, you know, or pretend to be independent. They were taking their orders from someone as high up in the French foreign ministry who did not want me to enter France, and there's a reason for it. I don't blame them. And I told them while I was there that maybe my plane got mixed up and I was in South Africa in the wrong country. I told them this couldn't be Paris, it must be Johannesburg. There's a large, increasing number of dark-skinned people swelling the dark population of France and Britain, and it's giving them a great deal of cause for worry. No effort has been made to unite the Afro-American community or the American Negro community with the West Indian community, and then those 2 communities with the African community, and those communities with the Asian community. This has never been done. And this frightened many interests in this country. Many people in this country who want to see us the minority and who don't want to see us taking too militant or too uncompromising a stand are absolutely against the successful regrouping or organizing of any faction in this country whose thought and whose thinking pattern is international rather than national. And then if this man over here plays too rough, we got some brothers who can play as rough as he. There's a worldwide revolution going on. It goes beyond Mississippi. It goes beyond Alabama. It goes beyond Harlem. What is it revolting against? The power structure. The American power structure? No. The French power structure? No. The English power structure? No. Then what power structure? An international Western power structure. So our next move is to take the entire civil rights struggle problem into the United Nations and let the world see that Uncle Sam is guilty of violating the human rights of 22 million Afro-Americans and still has the audacity or the nerve to stand up and represent himself as the leader of the free world. There'll be a hot time in the old town. With regret, with great regret. Now, I am well aware of what I'm setting in motion by what I'm saying up here tonight. I'm well aware. But I have never said or done anything in my life that I wasn't prepared to suffer the consequences for.
In 1959, I visited Khartoum and Omdurman in the Sudan, and I also visited the Muslims in Nigeria, Ghana, Egypt, and Arabia. I was most impressed by the Muslims of the Sudan. Their religious piety and hospitality are unmatched anywhere. I really felt at heaven and at home there.